Thanks, Debbie. And it was quite interesting because when Max was talking there, he mentioned some of the challenges that he's got with defining concepts, doing that conceptual model. Max, we've also joined up with I don't know if you know Mark Atkins and Terry Smith. They've actually got a writing business definitions book. So as part of those conceptual models that we're going to be talking about in the next month, plus building a course, we do want to focus on the concepts, their terms, their definitions, and things like that. So you may be interested in some of that. I know we've worked through quite a bit of Maria's book, and she actually starts all the way from mind mapping of concepts and goes all the way through to ontologies. So it's quite a scope that she covers, and quite exciting that new way, that all the different ranges of doing those concept models. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining. Today is basically our last session. We've done designing data products and using the customer value proposition approach for the data citizens, for the data professional, and the data manager. And today we are going to focus on building a data value proposition for the organization in terms of the data executive. Okay. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have read the paper. Has anyone read the paper from Gartner on completing your data and analytics strategy with a clear value proposition? Has anyone looked at that? Nobody. Okay, so I am going to do a recap of that paper. So I'm glad none of you have read it, so you won't find it boring. Okay, great. Now, one of the urgencies that Gartner puts forward is basically saying that as a data and analytics leader, one of the most important things to articulate in your strategy is the value proposition. Okay, so what value propositions are on the table? What are you offering the business? Okay, now it is pretty important to be able to explain the value proposition and to be able to ensure that they are engaged and they buy into it, so they actually see the value that they are going to get out of it. Remember that change management thing of ADCAR, which is awareness and desire, and really you need to be able to explain your value proposition and people need to buy into it. Okay, otherwise you can have some challenges getting your data strategy to progress. Okay, so these are the elements that Gartner talks about in a data strategy, data and analytics strategy. They talk about the vision, they talk about stakeholder outcomes. So what are the benefits going to be to the stakeholders? And that's where the value proposition comes into it. And then you have the capabilities and deficits. So I don't know if you've ever seen our SWOT analysis where we do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It comes into this scenario over here. And then this last part is more the operating model, the delivery, the architecture, the platform that one goes into. Okay, when defining your data strategy. All right, so let me just start off with the Gartner paper. And basically Gartner is suggesting that there are three value propositions for data and analytics. So you have this utility value proposition, which is our data analytics should be instantly available to all, for all purposes, like a utility. Okay, and then the next one is, with data and analytics, we will enable the business to make the right decisions every day. Now that starts to go into your value proposition and the outcomes. Okay, and then the driver is more about we will drive the business, we will drive innovation using data and analytics. Okay, without data and analytics, we're blind and we don't see any opportunities. So it's about exposing those opportunities and allowing people to see the opportunities. Okay. So a little bit further in terms of examples of that Gartner have provided. So here would be the value proposition statement. We believe that data and analytics offers the most value for you as a generic platform. That's why it's a utility value proposition. So basically, we're going to give you all the access to all the data that you need, and hopefully, it's going to improve your business. Okay. And you will use it in any way you deem appropriate or usable. Of course, there's certain governance issues there, but this is very much a utility thing. It's not focused on your business decision. How do we enable it? What the innovation is? It's just saying we're going to give you data. We're going to give it to you as quickly as possible. And there it is. If the data isn't there today, it will be there tomorrow. Okay. We commit ourselves to ensuring this platform is always available and continuously enhancing and adding further data sources. Okay. So that's one approach. Okay. Then we have the next. Okay, sorry. So then how do we measure the success of this value proposition? Well, it's platform availability, that the data we get there is quick and easy to access and use. So we've got data for all purposes, that almost that data democratization approach. We're just loading as much as we can on. And then the other success would be how long does it take for us to get a data source added, or what I like to refer to that as, do we have a data asset in the data warehouse, whatever it is, that reflects where we got this information from. Okay. All right. Then we have the enabler value proposition. So this is a specific business goal. So we're going to talk to every single business unit and deliver solutions that are spot on. And I tend to like this one because going from maybe zero, especially when you come into an existing organization and you haven't really had data management, from zero to all the data is massive and it will take a long time. I'm sure there's quite a few of you that are sort of building this at the moment, and it's not that easy to actually load everything into the data warehouse and get all the data available. Max, I don't know if I can see you smiling there, but I'm not sure how many people have actually achieved that. But it is about the speed at which we can orchestrate the loading of the data into the cloud environment. I tend to like this one, that we understand what the requirements are and we deliver solutions or use cases that are spot on. This is what the business needed, and we understand the value that we need to deliver. Okay, so what does it require? It requires a business understanding, that we understand that business inside out. We provide fit for purpose business solutions. So this is the challenge that the business is facing. So one would do a use case ideation session with the business. They would say, I've got this problem, or I need to achieve that, or I need this. And we would deliver a data initiative or a data product that's fit for purpose. Okay. And we commit to concrete business improvement. So one of the things I like to relate to that is it's that ROI. Does the business agree that if we deliver this, it's going to give the business the benefit that they are looking for? Okay, so that's very helpful. We use that enterprise value map from Deloitte, the EVM, and everything we do connects to that value. Now, if you've done any business architecture, if you attended my series last month on business architecture, the business architects define something called a value proposition, and then they have value items for specific stakeholders, and it's about getting that value proposition right. So people agree with it and it meets their requirements. Okay. So how do we measure the success of an enabler? So, for example, if we're doing campaign analytics, all right, then it's conversion rate improvement. So can you see it's a specific element of a deliverable? It's not a blanket. We'll give you all the marketing data that you require. It's very well defined. Okay, so our use case has to be very well defined so we can deliver it in a very short period of time, and we don't have just say, give me all the data that we need. Okay, and we don't have then almost just data sets that are landing in the data warehouse. We don't know why it's being used. It's just available. Okay, I really battle with that when I look at data products that have been built and I can't see what decision it supports, what it's trying to do. It's almost just an extract of the data source. Okay. Then the cost reduction. Is it going to reduce cost, and what sort of cost is it going to reduce? For example, predictive asset maintenance. Okay, we're going to predict when this vehicle, when this whatever it is required, we are going to be able to suggest it needs to come in for maintenance, especially in mines. They have to do that maintenance all the time. And so that predictive maintenance is very important. And they would add things like IoT sensors on the aeroplanes, on the machines in the mine, and they would look at analytics in terms of how that's performing. Okay, then we've got money saving scenarios, for example, improving fraud detection. Okay, so there's just some benefits. We break this up into high level use case categories. We talk about cost reduction and risk mitigation, revenue generation, and then business optimization. Those are the sort of levels that we define in our value map. Okay, then we've got the driver value proposition. Okay, now what we're saying there from a architecture point of view is we are going to help them innovate. We are going to achieve new business goals. We're going to show them new ways of doing business. So we talk about actionable insights, new data, new business questions. That's what we're trying to get out in that scenario. It will drive business to innovate. With those new ideas, we will find new ways to generate revenue, and we will constantly be applying the latest technology, techniques, and data to achieve what it is that we need. Okay, so this is very much it's very much driven by the state of change within technology, AI, data, and we're hoping that whenever this new technique comes around or new approach comes around, we can apply it to the business and find ways of exciting the business. I battle with this one. It's typically referred to as an innovation hub. So you go in there trying to look for all sorts of insights. And sometimes with the nature of agile and innovation hubs, there's quite a few failures, and there's very little guidance or direction that's given by business, but it's an approach, it's a technique, people are using it. So those are the types of things. Okay, how do we measure it? They call it discovery exercises. So we get given new data, new techniques, and we do the discovery, and they are trying to reach this scenario of 50, 40, 10, which is no new insights, but it is about confirming behavior. Why are the customers behaving like that? It's because of this, this, and this. We thought that was the case, and we've now confirmed it, which is very valuable. You can't underestimate the benefit of confirmation, because a lot of times you sort of guessing, you intimating, you making a decision on this. Okay, new revenue, and then lots of discovery exercises, and you're trying to go from one-off exercise. We applied a large language model to this. We asked it some questions, and everyone thought, "Ah, that's great," but they never came back to us. They never came back and said, "Can I do this? Can I answer these questions? Can I give it to my customers who need support, and will it be able to answer their questions?" Okay, that would be the follow up and repeat where you're getting benefit out of that. Okay, so that's how you would measure it. You want to get more of those follows ups. Okay, so those are the three value propositions. I like this summary basically to say that it's not about one summary, it's not about one approach. They can exist simultaneously. Okay, so almost whilst you're developing that enabler, you adding the utility. Okay. Informal surveys, we need to be able to check with the business. What is their preference? Is their preference for us to be a utility provider? Is their preference to enable, or is their preference to drive? And so we need to ask those questions, and we may be surprised at how they respond to us. And basically, we're saying that we probably will need to coexist with the different value propositions. And Gartner is saying this is not only likely, it's preferable. Yes, Paul.
Sorry, just a slide back. Thanks.
Okay.
Just a question that we've asked before is how do we leverage off the data in this world to enhance customer journey? Are you suggesting that it's these discovery exercises that we apply with the gathering of the data that we've ingested from discovery calls and all that?
Yes. No, in my experience, when I worked with an innovation hub, I was quite fortunate because they brought me in from a data governance point of view. It was quite astounding. The business was facing a lot of financial challenges, and they basically closed quite a bit of the governance data management project down, and they just said innovation AI is the way to go. Okay, so they then said, let's bring this innovation hub. They would talk to business, they would look at some of the data, and they would almost get a data scientist to look at the data and then present it back to the business. So they were discovering what the data was saying, and they were presenting it back and giving the business insights. Now, Paul, the actual example that I worked with was they collected something like, I think it was in the region of 250,000 balance sheets of all of the entities within the South African community. It was actually in SADC, so it was in Mozambique, Malawi, different areas. So that's they just ingested all of these balance sheets, and then they tried to make some sense out of it. The first one was a bit of a failure because there was so much data. They called it the flying butterfly. They couldn't make sense. There was just so much information. And then we tagged some of those things. We used a knowledge graph instead of a property graph. And then we could filter. So we removed all things and we looked for certain people. And we got lots of aha moments. People said, oh, shucks, I never noticed that. I never realized that. I never realized these connections. And interestingly enough, one of the business people said, this is a political time bomb that you've brought in here, because all of a sudden people could see who was investing where and could use it for political purposes.
Okay.
And then it was scrapped. But
Okay.
Yeah, so Paul, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. No, just the term discovery exercises.
Yes.
I just enjoy that, just
Yes.
understanding, unpacking that in terms of, as you know, the journeys we've been on, and
Yes.
just how to frame the collection of data so that we can do these discoveries to enhance the journey.
Right.
Cool.
Now, in where we've been talking about, we always look at creating our customer segments and our personas, and then we go and do a little bit more discovery based on the persona.
Yeah.
So high level, simple example, we want to talk about a customer learning and development. We would talk to the skills challenges that organizations are facing, and we'd ask them questions around the skills challenges. So
Yeah,
there'd be more of a narrow thing around we have some idea of what the value would be to our customers, but maybe they could help us. This one is a little bit more open, trying to give new insights, trying to really give me the data and we'll look at, see if it can make sense.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Good question. Okay, so that's the scenario that Gartner are referring to. Those the three types of value propositions. I thought it was a little bit weak in terms of a value proposition, but it communicates intent, right? So either I'm going to go away and I'm going to work like crazy and give you all the data you need, or I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to enable you, or I'm going to drive you, and or a combination of all of the above. So maybe I'll just pause there. Are there any questions in terms of those three categories of value propositions? Now, you would take them and make them your own, but you would use that framework to position it and then create your measurements. Okay. All right. So let's go to maybe just to define a data value proposition. Okay. So what is a data value proposition? It's a promise of value. We are going to give the business value. We're not just going to be a cost center. We're not just going to um, just take orders and deliver it. We are going to understand the value that you will get out of it, and then deliver the value that's been questioned. We want to communicate the value that has been delivered and confirm it, and then it to be acknowledged. And this is the important step that I'm sure I know that lots of people suffer with, is a case of we normally build a data strategy. They want us to do that. We talk to them, we communicate. Hopefully we communicate. It's not that easy. But that acknowledgement to say, yes, you did deliver the value that you promised, or you delivered more, or you delivered less, but you still gave us value. So it's the acknowledgement and almost the accounting for the value. I hope that makes sense. Okay, how do we get it, for example, on the balance sheet as an intangible asset? Okay, we need it to be acknowledged. Okay, we've got to get to that last step. So it's not just the first two. Okay, because if it's not acknowledged, then we disagree about the value that we are suggesting we are making. Okay, so what is the biggest challenge? Yes, sorry, Paul.
Sorry, just a quick one. So if just in maybe layman or other words, so to be
Yes.
delivered, would you say is the work that we did on a projected return on that investment? And then obviously communicated is communication, but then to be acknowledged, yes, I fully agree, getting it onto the balance sheet, but also that tracking of that exercise,
Yes.
and then that constant report back on,
Yes.
well, are we tracking to budget or have we missed it?
Right. So, Paul, the delivery would be some form of data product. Okay. It's going to be a data product that people can use. Hopefully, it's one of those enables, the enablements that it's spot on. It gives them a conversion rate. They can quantify it, and then they're going to measure it, Paul. So they should be accounting for it. So every single time we improve the conversion rate in our marketing strategy, we should be getting a percentage of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you how Spotify does some of these things, and it's there. It's really impressive in terms of how they do it. But it is that acknowledgement, and it's the acknowledgement almost down to an accounting treatment, a debit and credit, that you get acknowledged for the value that you bring.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a desire that's been stated in the DMBOK too, that these things should be expressed in economic terms. Otherwise,
100%.
As you say, our biggest challenge, if it's not explicit, then it's just everybody's feeling.
That's
I feel it's doing okay, or I feel it sucks.
Yes, and that's our challenge. I remember JG having a problem like this. They called it ZAR BI, okay, which is South African Rand BI. This was the project that they promised, and interestingly enough, they delivered it. They did quite well the first year. When they came around the second year, the business argued that no, that's that value that you gave us last year. You can't bring it forward to this year. They rejected it. They just said, no, we paid for that last year. You can't get any more, because they were focused on quoting an amount to deliver the data product and not the value that it gave to the business. So they defined that incorrectly.
Sure.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Good question. Okay, what is the biggest challenge? What is the biggest challenge in this value proposition? It's getting it defined and agreed and ensure that there aren't any implicit interpretations of stakeholders. So, Paul, that's where we come down to economic ROI, risk mitigation, however we use the thing to quantify the commercial value, we have to be able to demonstrate the accounting, and we have to then be able to argue what happens. And lately, these days, people are talking about providing a haircut to our value. So let's say we defined value of 20 million, and then we either didn't deliver, or we had bad quality decisions, or we couldn't get the conversion rate. They would then give us a haircut. Okay, then we would be sitting with 20 million minus 5 million for bad decisions, whatever that may be. So there's a quite a strict accounting process to that. Okay, the other big challenge that we face is that all of the different stakeholders, if you look at the stakeholder map in business architecture, are probably not over exaggerating, but you could be looking at anywhere between 60 to 70 stakeholders within the organization. Okay, now each stakeholder has their own set of needs, pains, and gains. Okay, so now I've got this interesting challenge. I go from one value proposition being, oh, I want to be a utility, to 60 different versions of that value proposition. Okay, so there's a challenge that we face. Okay, so what is the recommendation to address these challenges? Yes, Debbie.
Hi, sorry. I wanted to ask, with the previous slide,
Yes.
why is it so crucial for businesses today?
Okay. Okay. So I think what's happening, Debbie, and it's what we're finding in data management with analytics, the speed at which everybody's saying the transformation that's happening within organizations, and this big silver bullet called AI that's going to produce all sorts of value and change the way we work and put everybody out of business. If we're not able to quantify and define this value, people pick up the value from what they hear in the news, what they hear on business papers, on big case studies from Spotify and stuff like that. So we have to take it away from expectations or interpretations that people have that have heard about the amazing thing that Spotify's done, and then expect us to be able to do it. Okay, so we need to be able to define the value that we are going to deliver. And we can no longer just plod along and operate to say, well, you tell me what you need to do and I'll do it for you. Okay, that's it just can't happen like that anymore. Even with data quality, we need to be challenging all of our practices to be able to say, what value are you delivering the business for this effort? What is the value that you're giving? Debs, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. So it's a little bit like, Debs, we want to do search engine optimization. And what we want to be able to say is, okay, please quantify this value. Now, lots of times when you ask technical SEO people to say, how long is it going to take for us to become from where we are now to be in the top 10 on the search engine Google page? How long is it going to be there? And it's going, shucks, they almost don't want to, but then it's hard for the business to say, well, am I getting the value for the money? Does that help you understand?
Yeah, understandable. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So this is where we are. The value proposition has to be in the forefront of the strategy. Okay. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to deliver value, and we must express that value And not only that, is if they talk to anybody in the data management office, each member should be able to articulate that instantly. Okay, so everybody needs to know how to talk value. Okay. Now there's a question in there to say, how do we quantify the data product? Or I'm assuming that you're actually asking, how do we quantify the value of the data product? Now we would do that using something called data ROI. What's the return on investment of that data product? And what I like to do is when I start the design of a data product, and when I say, right, the data product needs to do this, this, and this, we would try to cost the value of that data product to the stakeholder. Okay, we would ask them, what is it costing you now? Is it lost business? Is it revenue that we can generate? Is it risk that we're dealing with? And you would go through a process of describing which is the value statement that answers this one the best. And then you would apply a commercial valuation to that and an ROI calculation. Does that answer your question? There's a lot to it, and I can show you some of the work that's done with EDM Council in some of the economic calculations that happen there. But that's generally the way we're talking about it. Understand the value that you're going to deliver to your stakeholder. What does it mean? What is it costing him, especially on cost reduction? And then you quantify it and make sure that you deliver that. Okay. Okay. So yes, commercial value. Please remember commercial value. You can, let's take risk mitigation. So commercial value can be revenue generation, it can be cost reduction in terms of automation, it can be risk mitigation, and it can be business process optimization. Okay, so commercial value is all four of those possibilities that I can get into a discussion. Risk mitigation, if I'm a bank and I have to do radar, what you would do then is to say, well, if I don't do this work, I could possibly face a penalty of 20 million. Okay. Now, if I do this work, I'm going to reduce the possibility of that penalty. Not going to get rid of it entirely, but I'm going to bring it down to 1 million. So my saving is 90 million. Okay. So that's how you do some of the calculations in that situation. But if you are interested, I can show you a lot more financial details. We've done it on one of our webinars. Debbie may be able to get the link and we can share that with you. Okay. Create a common ground with stakeholders. So we want to understand their expectations and make sure that that's meeting their requirements. And then almost what we refer to as persona demographics. So for all of the 60 stakeholders that we mentioned, okay, you would want to then understand what is the work that they do. And I'm going to show you a little bit later how you use business architecture to be able to understand that. Okay, so how do we depend on our business architect friends to help us do this? And then use the value proposition to evaluate and drive the data management operating model. Okay, so what sort of governance does it need? What's the delivery model? How do we get funding for it? And then what's the architecture that we need to produce? Okay, now the next challenge we face is this communicating your value proposition. Okay, so it's not that easy just to tell everybody because I've got 60 stakeholders, I may be dealing with all this stuff. You need a playbook and a technique to be able to communicate this value proposition. Now, Paul, this is some of the sort of discovery mechanisms I would be suggesting is, for example, if you have defined a job for a data executive. So this is the type of thing that Max was talking about. He talks about a way of work for his architecture department. Now, they would typically do it by role, and then they would define the jobs that the role does or the portfolio. They would list the jobs. As part of that, they may do pains and gains. That's part of the job theory. you do your pains and gains, and then you go and you put your version of what's important, okay, and then you would go and ask them to say, is this important? Does it lead to extreme pain? What would your level be of extreme pain? And you can see it going from 2 to 4. We basically go from a scale of 1 to 5. And that's where we'd go through all of these different jobs to be done. And we would rate them, and then we would clarify this with the executive that we are working with. Okay, so you define your value proposition, then you validate it. And Paul, this is talking to your discovery. Okay, we have customer interviews or customer discovery calls. We do surveys, we collect data. Then we do A/B testing. Okay, so what you'll find then is a case of, okay, I've got this customer profile. How do I apply features to meet the profile? And we will confirm with them using A/B testing that we are delivering the value that they are talking about. So there's quite a nice way to automate that. Paul, there was one example that somebody used in the marketing analytics that I've done, is they actually create mock web pages and they present this value proposition to the executives, and then they get people and they see what the executive clicks on. And basically, when they click on that, it's right, oh, you agree with that, that's your pain. And then they would translate it to, oh, please call us if this is your pain. So let's say you list 20 pains and they click on 2 or 3 and you keep analytics about it, you can then determine which is the most painful experience that you have. Paul, does that also make sense to you?
Yeah, thanks, Howard. That's actually a great example. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, they did some very clever things about validating this. And you can use these type of techniques where you don't have to deliver the product right now. You can go manual in the beginning and see how people respond to it, and then you can confirm how you're going to create that product.
Very good.
Okay.
Wow.
So can you see it's called their click to discuss.
Yeah.
So they're confirming my feeling, they're giving me numbers, and then we can click and talk, and we can talk about it. Call me if you need this.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So a very helpful technique that we do. Okay. Early evangelists. Okay. Then we can have pilot programs and we bring people on to check what we're talking about. Okay. And then this is about the communication. Now, what is critical about this communication? You can't talk to every business person, from marketing to financial operations to support services, customer management. You can't talk to them all in the same voice. You have to understand who you're talking to and then address their requirements. So your communication message must change according to the segment. Okay. Then, so based on the persona, you have to draft the message to get the common ground that is simple and that has a unique selling point. Or you know that as well when we did the marketing course. What did he call it? Ideal client profile, ICP. Very similar to a unique selling point. What is the selling point that we do better than anybody else? Okay. And so you go through this storytelling, success stories, consistent messaging, engage in the team and feedback, and then test and optimize that your value proposition works. So it's about this type of scenario where I've got all of these things. I think this is the high value job. I need to get my business, I need to communicate with them, and then they confirm that this is the most important thing that we need to address. Okay. All right. Now I've got 8 minutes, and I'm going to try to just show you how you align. This is the one where I really wanted to get through, is how do we align the business architecture, the marketing department, and we created this new term called the data value architect. Now, I actually thought that we had come up with a brand new term. And when I did a Google search, they are talking about value architects. Max, I don't know if you've ever heard of something called the value architect. Is that something that's been popped up in your way of work or the roles within business architecture?
No, it haven't, but value is often, we haven't expressed it like that specifically,
Okay.
but we all the time
Okay.
talk about value streams
Right.
and that kind of thing. So that is part of the whole thing.
Right. And the value architect comes to what the question was related to is how do I define the commercial value of the work that I'm doing? So this is trying to bring it down to a commercial feasibility study, Max, so that you're talking numbers and you got more of an expression in that area. So important that we get that alignment. So let me try to show you. These are the things that data architecture, data value architect, business architecture, and marketing have in common. They all talk about a value proposition. They talk about jobs to be done. There's a segmentation, and there's personas, and that's not as they sometimes we refer to it as a stakeholder or a role, and then we have product lifecycle. So these are the areas that I've addressed and spoken about our integration. Okay, and this is a map that I've built in terms of what are the overlaps between these two different things. So as an example, a data asset sits here between data value architect and business architect. And then we have a data product that sits in the middle there, and that's something that the marketing people can use to address a value proposition. And so here is, and I'm going to go through all of the different mappings for you, and we'll probably come back to this one. Okay. All right. So here is my value proposition mapping. So business architecture, we talk about a value proposition, a value stream, and a value item per value stream stage. Okay. Marketing people also talk about a value proposition, and they then talk about the jobs to be done, and then they talk about the value of that job. So I don't know if you remember those 8 or 9 jobs that the data executive had to do. Now there was a value per job, and when that rolls up, that's the value proposition to the data executive. So basically we aggregate value items to give us our value proposition. Now, the data value architect works from an ideation use case, a data value chain, and then a KPI. Okay, so these are the different terms, but they address it in different ways. Okay, now let me try to give you yes, Paul.
Sorry. Just one back, please. Just the way you've created the slide, are we saying that and it might be obvious, but just the jobs to be done are the jobs to be done within each stage of the value stream? Is that what
yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct, Paul. And so business architect call it a value proposition, marketing call it value proposition, and data value architecture, as we call it an ideation use case that is going to be done to deliver that value. Does that make sense?
Yes. Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So they are in line with that thing. Now, I'm going to try to show you an example of that, where here we have acquire a loan. So this is a bank, and they provide loans. And so the value proposition statement is empower your financial future. Okay. Sometimes you may disempower it by having too much debt, but let's say this is a positive one. Okay. And then we have the value stream. And Paul, you can see these are the value stages. They complete the application, qualify the loan, originate documentation, and then close the loan at the end. So there's the value stream, 4 stages. Each stage has a KPI, and it has a value item. And then each stage has an entry and exit condition. Okay. Now, you take that value stream and then you map it onto your business capabilities that are required to deliver that value proposition. Okay. And then something like this starts to build. So, Paul, can you see there for that one customer definition, which was a capability that is part of that thing, that's the first job to be done. And
Yeah.
what I do then is
Nice.
to do that, I create a data asset. Okay. And then I have jobs to be done number 2. There's the next data asset. Now, can you see this? The next one is product and financial instrument matching. Jobs to be done 3, offer matching. And for each one of those jobs, you're going to be asking the question, what's the pain and what benefit do I get out of defining a customer?
Brilliant.
What benefit do I get out of account definition? And that's quite a nice way of using the JTBD framework to ensure that whatever capability we have, we understand the value that it produces. So you'd go through all of that, describing all of these things. Now, can you see here that this customer definition exists there, it exists there, customer information management exists there, and there. So there's this set of capabilities that have been brought together to deliver a value stream. Now, the important thing is once you've got all that mapping, that rolls up into a data product. So that is the data product that is delivering a value stage. Okay. And that data product is made up of the data assets that bring the data together so that when it gets handed over to the qualifying loan, they can refer to the data, a product that talks about the complete application. Okay. And there's your data product, and then your next data product, and then your next data product, and then your next data product. And this is this is what we refer to as a data value chain along the business value stream, okay, that delivers the value as we move along these different areas. Does that help you understand?
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Sure. Really came to life here.
Yeah. So we would, yes, Max.
But so when you refer to data product, that is not only analytical data products, that is also operational data products.
Yes. Correct, Max. You know, we built a use case portfolio for one organization. We had something like 60 use cases in there from a data initiative point of view, and it was everything to reducing cost, and even in some case, it was just a simple BI report that explained to people how many customers were in the segment in their industry. So there was no analytics. It was just a simple BI thing that described and answered a question of how many business people within this industry are in this area. Simple as that. There's no fancy analytics. Okay, so sometimes we think this data products is really fancy stuff, that it's going to do some fancy stuff. And I will get to you a little bit later where we can start getting clever with this data product as an example to be able to say, you know, if we do all of this fee assessment, we may terminate this thing right now because we predict that this person's going to default. And we may use improved analytics on this data product to make some of those decisions. Max, so what you can do is then improve the value of the data product as you're going up that channel from data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, and you start adding other analytics. And that's what we call our data journey map, the customer journey map for data as we progress in terms of the type of value that it gives you. Okay. All right. So that's jobs to be done. Now, can you see, guys, this gets really complicated in terms of when you build a business architecture, there's every single one of these capabilities. Each capability is decomposed to another capability, and they have level 1, 2, and 3. So can you see this is levels 1 to 2? And this is where you start building this up, Paul. And then you start, from this, you start creating value data products that relate to value streams.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you're building a lot of this. Now, let's talk about that utility that utility approach, basically we would need these data assets for every single one of these little blocks here. Now, I think I remember the healthcare one, when we brought it all together, there was something in the region of, I think it was around about 1,000 different breakdown to level 2 capability. We had about 1,000 of those. So that's quite hard to be able to achieve that utility thing where we deliver it on everybody. Okay. All right, so this is segmentation. So business architecture segments its strategic, core, and supporting. Can you see here, strategic, core, and supporting? Most of your customer, your external customer, is going to be sitting in this area over here. Customer management, order management, partner management, product management, channel management. That's going to be where your marketing is focusing. Yes, we will publish the slides. And you can have a look at it on that one as well. Okay, so segmentation, marketing does it as well. They can market by region, by industry, by customer, so that they get the right messaging. Okay, now business architecture doesn't worry too much about that messaging, communicating to the stakeholders. They should, and I think it's very helpful when we break it up into those people and we understand them better, that we can do better communication with them. And then we've got our data value architecture that we're operating in here. Okay, so this is the segmentation intersection. Can you see this is almost the business architecture that starts first. And when we add marketing, it's operating in this area and that area over there. And then when we add data, it's all over the place. Okay, there's quite extensive in terms of we've got data in every. Remember, there's a data asset, Paul. There's a data asset and a data product in all of these different areas, and we need to cover it.
Yes.
Basically, if we were a utility, if that was our data strategy. Okay. Now, when we have a customer journey, we talk about a customer journey map in architecture. We have a persona. We talk about feature attribution. We can either use demographics or firmographics or behavioral, psychometric things. We can use all of these things. So each one of these areas apply this slightly different, but they need to connect. So as an example, there's something called a service blueprint in a business architecture, and it tells them how they're going to deliver a customer journey. Okay, so service blueprints map onto customer journey maps. Okay, so how are we going to service our customer? How are we going to deal with every single progression? How are we going to work with them? And this is really a nice development that organizations go through with marketing. So in the beginning, it's all about the seller defining it. Paul, if you take us as a scenario, we defined what our customer training is, data management for certification, we define all of this. And now we're having to convert into customer centric. So now you have personas, selective targeting, you segment your audience, and then you go into customer driven, where you individualizing the value proposition. And this is where Spotify is. Okay, so Spotify is sitting at this area over here. Why did they go there? Because this value proposition at this level can be, there's lots of challenges. First of all, do all the departments agree with it? Or that persona is an oversimplification. It is oversimplified, it's genericized it too much. Okay, and then the change management of the individual. So this one suffers. It's a good first step, but it suffers. And you then have to start moving to an individualized by segment. Okay. So Spotify still has those segments, but they then individualize it to discover your music needs, what you want to listen to. And I don't know how many of you, I'm sure a lot of you use Spotify, but you can actually have that AI disc jockey. Have any of you used that? Where the AI disc jockey and plays music for you. Okay, have people seen that? Okay, that is personalized recommendation. This is Paul's learning experience, and that disc jockey plays what it thinks you want to listen to. That number, take a guess what the number is. What percentage of users are listening to AI recommended music at the moment? So I think it was 2 weeks ago. How many? What would you guess? Let's ask Monica. Monica, would you have a guess as to how many people are using the AI recommend or DJ? 70%? That's pretty impressive. It's now at the rate is 35%. Okay. So 35% of the listeners in Spotify are using that AI recommender. Okay. Certainly I don't. I tried it when it came out. It was nice in the first 3 or 4, and then it got bad. Now, I don't know whether someone else was using my ID when they listened to it, but it didn't work for me. Okay. Now there's another one on product lifecycle. Okay, so we go through the same thing, and I'm sort of running out of time here. Then we have the people skills. Okay, so what does the business architect need to be good at? Business strategy, value stream mapping, business capability, design thinking, integration. So they're going to be bringing all of those data assets together, Paul, to build a data product.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're bringing all the stuff together, all the different jobs, and then making sure everything aligns. The data value architect, they need to understand business, they need to understand marketing, they need to understand financial, analytical skills, communication, and right at the end there is data management expertise. And there's the marketing architect. So you've actually got these 3 people working together to actually create all of these data products that you need. Okay. Sure. I think I could probably go on for many hours. Are there anything that people would like to see? Is there any specific question or area that you'd like to do? I can go and talk about jobs or journey or real world, or is there anything anyone would like to talk about?
While people are pinning their questions, I'm sure there's many. That a couple of slides back where you showed from seller type organization to AI driven, it looks like it, but just checking, is that almost like an evolution of typical business? We start off as the seller driven, going out there and just knocking doors down and trying to sell. And this is the maturity model almost, right?
100%.
Okay.
Paul, you're 100% correct. And you can't skip the customer-centric one, because that individualization, it still needs a categorization of the customers you're dealing with. So you can't ignore it. But if you just work at that high level categorization and you don't individualize it, people are going to get unhappy with you.
Awesome.
It's going to grow tired when you keep on recommending music that you don't really like and stuff like that.
Yeah, just because someone in my house plays Peppa Pig all day doesn't mean I like it.
Correct. Yeah, and especially if they use your same account, then you're in lots of trouble. Yeah. And it's all about understanding the user behavior, right? That user behavior is going to dictate the recommendation. Okay, so we're starting to see that. Now, Paul, let's apply it to learning. But before I go too far, are there any other questions?
We've asked for some real-world examples, please.
Okay, great. Okay, so just quickly, this is phenomenal. Please, I would really ask you to review these things yourself. So look at this. These are all data-driven people, okay? So there's Netflix, their value proposition, personalized entertainment recommendation. Spotify, discover new music you'll love. Okay. Amazon, effortless shopping with personalized recommendations. Paul, can you see here as well? I mean, don't give me stuff that I'm not interested in. Okay. Google Maps, real-time traffic updates. Now, they're nowhere near as good as Waze,
Yeah.
but they're trying to get there.
Yes.
And then we have LinkedIn, which is connect with professionals and discover career opportunities. Please, this is all about data, data analytics, data user preferences, habits. It's everything is driven by machine learning. Now, I just want to show you how impressive Spotify is. It's phenomenal in terms of there's some links if you want to go and see how well they've done. This is Spotify engineering. So you can see the engineering platform that they built. So let's just talk. They use this bookshelf concept, and in the bookshelf, they've got tiles. Now, if we consider, remember, the Spotify and the Netflix are very similar in their value proposition, and Apple Music and areas like that. So Spotify is competing with Netflix. Netflix is delivering videos of music and things like that. Now let's look at some of the numbers. Okay, so Netflix has 158 million movies. Okay, music, we're talking 230 million in terms of end users. Content volume, Netflix has 58,000. Spotify talks about 50 million tracks. Okay, content duration. They typically listen between 30 minutes and 2 hours, and music is 3.5 minutes. Okay, content replay, low in terms of movies, very high in terms of music. Okay, so they have to recommend at a non-stop speed compared to Netflix. When Netflix has to recommend a movie, it's they've already done the user behavior last night or the week, so they're not asking to do this split minute, second type of situation compared to Spotify. Now, what is amazing about Spotify, because they've got people all the way around the world and people listen to different music. Okay, so what are the people listening to in Saudi Arabia? Okay, you can't go and advertise all the music that's happening that American people are listening to, because it's not going to go. So they have to automate across all of their catalogs and stuff like that. They have to automatically generate ads that will encourage people to join Spotify. Now, I'm sure you can see that it may be very dangerous taking all of the behavior of Americans and then trying to recommend it to South Africans or Europeans or Arabs within Saudi Arabia or UAE. That can be a dangerous game. So they have automated their creative, meaning the copy. All of these words have been automated. They don't have people writing these ads. Okay, so they generate this type of personalization depending on you. So they're understanding who it is that's looking for music, that is busy researching. Do they go Apple Music, Spotify, Netflix, whatever it is, and they're now going to present you these ads. Okay, so the ad interaction, and that is linked to Spotify content. They build all of this personalization. Okay. And here is the flow that they talk about. Every day we get new releases. There's an artist. They then rank the content in terms of who's listening to it. They create these assets. Then they go to all of these channels, Facebook, everybody, and then they build campaigns on that. And then they go through the results of learning through this. This platform has been completely automated. Okay, so understanding what people do, building the ads, ranking the content by country, by region, by persona, all done. All done. They don't the marketing people cannot keep up. They cannot keep up. They can't manually build these campaigns and design campaigns. That day is gone, and they're just operating at a scale that not many people have been able to operate at. Now, what sort of benefits are we seeing that they are getting out of this? Okay, 30% of the users come from AI recommended songs. Market share, they're 1.5 times more than their closest competitor, which is Apple Music. The user interaction. Okay, listeners engage with the platform 61 times per month, Apple Music 12 times per month. So not only are they getting new people onto the platform faster than anybody else, they also have that. Look at the scale of engagement compared to Apple. Look at the scale they're getting. What is something like 500% more than what Apple's getting. Now, have any of you worked with Apple Music? You can see the difference that Spotify is applying, all based on data, all based on technology. Okay, and they just continue to keep that thing going. Now there's Netflix and LinkedIn as well. Veronica, does that give you an example of what Spotify is doing with data? They've basically taken a lot of the humans out of that.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I found my DJ now. Didn't even know it existed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's and I'm hoping it got better. That's sort of why I was asking Monica in terms of what she thought. But anyway,
Sorry, man. Maybe my mind drifted and you gave the answer already because I was just fascinated by all those numbers and I wasn't listening throughout exactly. But do they mention what attributes that basically 5 times Apple use? So they
personalized experience, Paul. Personalized experience.
So that's the key driver to this 5 times more interaction between Apple and
So it's gone from persona or genre music to what is it that Paul Bolton likes? What is it? And it's not about Paul Bolton likes rock or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's now down to what you've been listening to lately, what mood you're in, and it's about discovery of your music and where it goes to. Now, I've got a son, Lachlan, who loves this music, and he's found ways of just playing 2 or 3 songs of a specific type, and then he kicks in with the AI to find new music, and then he discovers other music like that. So he clears his cache, he plays these songs, and then he waits for the AI to recommend new things, and he finds things that. So that's hyper personalization that he's playing with to get that scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the cool thing is the tech is there to even though he's doing the fancy, caching and all that, clearing the cache and that, but he's using that tech to really just pinpoint what he likes.
Yes.
Very good.
So remember that value proposition, discover.
Yeah.
This is the value proposition, right? Discover new music you'll love.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's the value proposition. Now, Andrew, they use just about every form of analytics that you can think of. These guys are using to do that recommendation. So, as an example, if it's coming now to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or if it's Sunday, or if it's whatever it is, there's mood type of things, and so they are predicting that, within the next hour, this is the type of music. Or if you get in your car, then they predict what sort of music. So that all of that stuff is predictive analytics. Andrew, does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes,
so there's
got it,
predictive.
Howard.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
it's predictive, it's prescriptive, and
It's
then
personalized
yes.
highly.
Yes.
Yeah. Because imagine
Yeah.
on a Sunday afternoon, you want to drink a glass of wine and relax. They're going to propose something for
Yes.
you.
100%. Now I'm going to show you something. I'm just sorry. I'm just going to jump to this one slide. Okay, it's 156. So let's look at this thing. 156. You all know this. This is the Robert Abate information triangle. Okay, and he is talk about data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Now, what you do with this, as you progress down here, you can see, Andrew, you go from predictive analytics to prescriptive analytics and to cognitive analytics. And each time you're trying to solve a different problem. That depending on your behavior, depending on we know you and stuff like that, what are your patterns? What would you like now? What should we do? What should we play? They're using just about all of those analytics. It's quite impressive if you log on to that Spotify engineering. They are using TensorFlow, and that TensorFlow has just about every single type of analytics that you could ever think about in this scenario. And so there's some of the journey analytics. So Paul, this is also something that you may be interested. For example, let's say I'm going from a student to a professional to a specialist to a thought leader. They're actually trying to understand how long is it going to take you to go and pass the CDMP exams, what sort of analytics, if you're currently performing your quizzes and you're not really answering it, what's the chance of you passing the CDMP? Those are the types of things that one can analyze. Monica, I enjoyed it, but it feels like it's repeating songs. Yeah, so that's why Lachlan actually clears his cache. There's an actual thing that you can say, get rid of my history, and then he reloads that history. Because one of the problems you have with recommendation is that it gets so entrenched in your behavior that it's hard for you to change. So they even give you that ability to say, okay, forget about everything you know about me, and now let's start again. Cool. Okay.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Alex. Excellent.
Yeah. So I'll make these slides available. There's a lot to it, and really just as I just want to show you basically my last scenario is what do I think some of the future trends are. So if I look at the way that Spotify is working in terms of this, and we look at Gartner, and remember Gartner says we should have all of these or multiple. Okay, so let's say I'm a utility. I've got utility. That means I have all the data and I can make it instantly available. Okay, then I can deal with specific business problems, and then I can give you new ideas. So thinking about this, I went and looked, and I found this website that builds data products. So Paul, these people actually go and create the data product for you using AI. So they bring the data assets together. They say, you need to do this, 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 and this, and they put it together and they give you a data product. Okay, so they're using AI to build that data product. Now, if we are using then the Spotify vision where we get all of this personalization, we should be able to deliver a data product that supports your value proposition and your decision making. So now we've got not just at a persona level of all these people need this type of data.
Yeah.
We are now saying that if you've got active metadata and a data dictionary and you're using this type of thing, I should be able to generate a data product for you in the same way as they generate a song list. What's stopping us from getting to that point?
Yeah. No,
Because
the lights have come on for me in the training, because it's like, some of the work you did with tagging the YouTube webinars and things.
yes.
So I'm an exec or I'm a manager, and I go and fill in my form and tell the application that these are my pains. And I'm just, that one slide you have with the shelf and the tiles.
Yes.
And then, it just highlights, okay, so your pains are in this area as the shelf, and then these all the different YouTube videos and courses and
right. Now, Paul, take that a step further. There's actually Copilots doing that, and Copilot integrates in Teams, and it works on your Kanban board. That planner.
Yes.
Okay. So it reads the tasks that have been allocated to you, and it will start prompting you, do you know how to create this deliverable?
Wow.
And it gives you the training required to create that deliverable.
Hmm.
Now, what it
So
should be doing,
you could create tiles, you could create the Kanban with the jobs to be done, right?
100%,
And then it starts to
100%, 100%.
Yes. I'm thinking of the DMMA, Howard.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
those deliverables.
Now, where you have to be very careful on this thing is you need to train that LLM with your policies and procedures, right? So it recommends the way you do things. Okay. And so your knowledge, your bank of memory has to be well defined to the LLM. Okay. So you have to you have to clear out what it's found all over the web, and you have to say, this is the way we do things, and this is the way you recommend the way we do things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
Cool. So maybe one day we get a Spotify data product builder.
Wow.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Sorry, Howard, you mentioned something like you could use, so maybe I didn't understand or hear correctly what you were saying, to apply to your your exam using some of these
Oh yes.
to help you sort of study, get ready, and
Yes.
check your readiness for the
Yes,
exam.
Andrew. So what we've been doing, but we've been doing it manually, is we have a set of test questions. We call them mimic questions. They're very close to the exam, and they're broken up by knowledge area. And we take you through those different questions, and we say, you're not doing too well at data governance, or you're not doing too well at data modeling. Maybe you should be looking at this chapter and you should be reading that. So we call it the test-driven approach. So what we try to suggest is, after a while, you get tired of reading that DMBOK. Okay, it's just too much information. And it's a lot easier to get more practical by doing the questions and finding out where you don't understand. So the questions are almost your learning discovery that you need to learn. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but what's the difference between that and the let's say the practice pack that Dama sells if you want to be ready for the exam?
Okay, so that tends to be 25 questions in terms of, you go through that, and after a while you just see the repeat questions coming around and round and round on that situation. So we've got something like, Veronica, 365 that go across the whole pack. So it goes across every single knowledge area, and then we allow you to target your learning. Okay, and then what I did as a test on myself is, I basically I was at 321 questions. I basically memorized all those questions, and I then wrote the CDMP exam. So the first thing I did was I tested on that CDMP practice exam. I got 100%. Okay, then I went into my exam, and I was able to finish my first round using Veronica's technique. I finished my first round in 45 minutes. I got through the whole test, and I was pretty sure I was sitting at around about 70%. I had done flagging of certain ones. I was then able to do some lookups and confirmation, and I landed up with 96% at the end of that thing. Okay, so that's the technique that we use to just help prepare you. And when anybody says, are we ready to write? The first thing I go and do is I check, well, how many times have you done this test, and how quickly have you completed the test? Okay. And that's when I start to recognize that I can sort of predict where your results are going to be. A lot of it's manual at the moment, but one would need to go to a more AI-driven platform and give you the right questions and the right learning, depending on how you do in your tests.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Howard.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for
Thank you so
everything.
much.
It's a pleasure,
It was a
Debbie.
great session. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers,
Cheers.
cheers. Thank you.